Is going on YouTube? I'm finally back for another video, and today I'm going to just briefly touch on this project I've done. This is, as you can see, this is the Howard S. Studios resin Jack Nicholson as the Joker from 1989 Batman life-size bust. So this was a project that took me 2-ish months to complete. I originally got the unfinished bust basically on a luck of the draw. Another person was selling this. I don't really know if they knew exactly what it was. They were selling it for a very, very good price, so I bought it. This required a lot of cleanup as far as several of the teeth were damaged and had to be resculpted. Some of the ear parts had to be resculpted and fixed, as well as some parts of the hair in the back of the head had to be filled in with body filler, sanded, and adjusted to match the rest of the bust. So once that was all done, this was then obviously painted up. I did the paint up and all of the finishing, as well as the stand, which was custom made. All of the paint was done with either acrylic model paints or acrylic craft store paints. I used a number of different paints from Craftsmart as well as Folk Art. So for example, the jacket used a number of different purples from Craftsmart. The hair was a number of different paints from both Craftsmart and Folk Art that were mixed together to create two different colors, a lighter and a darker, for a base layer as well as a highlighting layer. The teeth used several different Vallejo colors: ivory for the teeth, pink rosy flesh for the gums, basic red for the lips, and then a custom mixed color of a number of those colors I just listed, as well as a brown and some black to get the inside of the mouth to give it just a little bit more depth. The eyebrows were done in several different stages to really emphasize that they were a little bit more fine in the hair, not as thick, as I didn't really want the eyebrows to look like they were drawn on and just completely solid. If I were to do this again, that's probably the one thing that I would change. I would probably make the eyebrows just a little bit more faint, a little bit more on the realistic side as far as what we saw in the film. And finally, the eyes. The eyes were a custom set, well, not a custom, but a set of acrylic eyes. They were 27 millimeters. I ordered them online from a place out in California. They were the, I want to say, light brown color that they had. I felt that they matched some of the reference photo I saw from both the film as well as several other appearances of Jack Nicholson at various red carpets or premieres where you could see his eye color very clearly, and I thought these matched quite well. Just because I didn't really want to do the green eyes like I've seen some people do, I just felt that this was a little bit more on the realistic side. And once those eyes were in my possession, once I got them in the mail, I fitted them. I sanded the eyes out so they fit pretty flush. They were then epoxied in from the back, and I used a little bit of epoxy putty around the eyelid on the front side to make sure that the eyes appeared to be flush with the eyelids and the border around the eyes. So once that was all completed, I did a custom color using a couple of different reds, a couple of different pinks, and some browns to get the sort of waterline border around the eye. And that was then sealed with nail polish gloss top coat, which I had also used on the teeth prior. I feel like that gives a very natural sort of naturally wet, but not overly glossy, like a car finish type appearance. It was a very, very natural look. And all in all, I will say I am incredibly happy with how this has turned out. Looking at the fabric tie, I did all of that. That was just sort of the main portion around the collar was very just sort of fit in and fiddled with it till I got to the shape I wanted. And the tassel strap things were done using very thin pieces of leather I had, and they were wrapped in the silk blue metallic-y fabric that I had already in house, which worked out very well as far as this build and getting things done very quickly. The stand for this was a very, very basic stand. I took a piece of, I believe it was MDF, just did a quick border around it. There is a metal pole that goes up into the bust and has a piece of leather on the top of it to help make sure that this doesn't slide around or move. And yeah, I think that is all I'm going to really discuss for this video. However, if you want to know a little bit more about the whole build process and some of the colors I actually use in that whole process, I do have a RPF build thread on this piece where I go into a lot more detail as far as some of the techniques I used and some of the other DIY photos and progress photos and that sort of thing. But just before I end this video, I am going to do just a quick little move this camera around as best as I can to sort of get some of the detail. I'm not going to flip the bust, but as you can see, it came out very, very well. I did end up getting to show this piece off for the first time in public at Toronto Prop Expo this year, and I received a lot of positive feedback and comments from many of the attendees and the exhibitors as far as this bust and the paint up. Yeah, as you can see, here's everything. Here's the hair, as I partially mentioned, the highlighting of it with the low lights. You can see the light hits it differently on different parts of the hair. There is a very, very subtle weathering job done to this just because I wanted to give it a little bit more depth, but I didn't want to go too heavy to where you'd be able to really see it. A lot of the weathering that's done is very subtle, and you really wouldn't be able to see it unless you were here in person to see it. But I think that covers everything I wanted to touch on today. Like I said, I do have an RPF build thread. I'll leave the link in the description for that if you want to go check it out and see some of my other builds that are linked to that. But that's going to end the video. Thank you all for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, whatever you want to do. I will leave my I do look at my comments regularly to answer any questions, so feel free to leave a question and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thanks for watching.